Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast, where we talk with the people behind the current events and breakthroughs in brain implants in an understandable way, helping bring together various fields involved in neuroprosthetics. Here is your host, Ladan.
Welcome to another Toronto Rehab Week 2019 Spotlight interview presented by IFESS, the International Functional Electrical Stimulation Society. Thanks to them for sponsoring these episodes.
We're here at Rehab Week. We're in the exhibit hall. We're able to sit down and have some coffee with Thierry Keller with Tecnalia. It's a research institute in Spain. And we're really excited to learn about you, learn about the institute, and learn about IFESS. So what are all the hats that you wear, Thierry?
Yes,
you wear quite a few of them.
Yes, I have quite a few hats, really in volunteering to these different associations and so on. So this is something that I have started becoming 6 years ago the president of IFESS. But then having links due to my professional life linked to Spinal Cord Injury Center, then to the Technical University in Zurich, the ETH Zurich, where I had my position as postdoc first and then as group leader. And then at some point of time, this was in 2007, I got a phone call from small research center called Fatronic at that time that asked me, okay, we have 50 million from investors. We want to build up a sector in healthcare. The Basque Country is very good in industry. Went there, I saw, it's like Switzerland. It's at the sea, not at lakes. So I became very familiar there. So Fatronic merged with 8 other technological centers to what now Tecnalia is. And Tecnalia is now a research organization with 1,400 researchers, but active in many sectors. So this is ICT, this is manufacturing, this is energy, but it is also healthcare.
And so you're involved very much in the healthcare research side of things.
Yes.
And what's your model? You bring in an idea, you build a prototype. Tell us what your model is.
When we continue on this history, when I got there with all that investor money and so on, first finding a right set of people, recruiting worldwide. So I had the opportunity that I could recruit for my group 20 researchers on worldwide basis, mainly postdoc level. So this was a great opportunity, knowing that there is funding behind it, that it's not primarily to go and write proposals and get funding in, but really get there, do innovation, creation, all these models of, starting from brainstorming to structuring it, to see, but then also to focus from a very early stage on the need side. And for a technological center, the need side from a research perspective is the end user. Then later you learn that's not what it is. So your
that's
client,
what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah. It's supposed to be, and it is absolutely clear when a product does not meet the end user's need, it will fail. It will fail for sure. But you also need to take into account other needs. You need to take into account industry needs, but you need to basically take into account all stakeholder needs. So that's what was my transformation from being a researcher at the university, looking at the end user need, because I was always doing, applied science, applied research. When we are talking in technical terms, we are always talking about technological readiness levels. So we are talking about higher technological readiness levels, something that is already closer to the market than a basic result from basic scientific research. And I had this opportunity really to develop methods that we can, in as short as possible time, move things along that ladder of technological readiness. So at Tecnalia, we are working at the technology readiness, starting maybe at 4, going to 6, and try to really transfer it to industry to do 7, 8, and 9. 9 means really you press the button and production starts and you sell. Whereas 1 is I have seen something, an effect, have really done a result and shown an effect, then it goes. Others have also controlled, have done the research part. So they have again done that search. And that's basically, I like this word research because it really explains what our job is. So it's not about searching, it's not only about finding, but it is to do this in a repetitive manner and to get conclusive results.
I mean, that's the word, research. Search again, research.
Yes, exactly.
So part of what you're doing in research is building these prototypes. So we've got some really neat technology that's in front of us. And it sounds like your bread and butter is building these prototypes, taking a problem and putting it into something that's material in a prototype.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what we see in this kind of neoprene band that looks like a bunch
electrodes
of
on it and some kind of remote or buttons or something like this?
Yes.
Too?
So this is much more than a remote. So this is a band that we have developed. We have done the research actually together with the University Hospital Göttingen and the University of Göttingen in Germany. So this is a reference lab there, also for one of the largest companies in that sector, Ottobock. So we got from them, I mean, we don't have any relation to them for all the work that we have done, except that they allowed us to use their prototype prosthetic device that is a multi-degree prosthetic device. So with a prosthetic device in the lower extremity, this is something what is well accepted in the end user. In the upper extremity, it's not. In the upper extremity, it's not, and the main reason of many studies that looked at usability is when the user cannot internalize external device, then it's always a tool outside, and what a prosthetic device needs to be is something that is internalized. But to be able to internalize something, you need to overcome that you look at the device. So you need somehow to get other senses that you can internalize a device. So it cannot only be looking at the prosthesis will tell you what this hand is doing. Then you are an observer and you observe external things, not internal things. External things you want to feel, but not to observe.
So exactly what it says a max sense, it's for proprioception, which is exactly what you're describing or this is where our limbs move in space and we know where it's in space because we can feel where it is in space.
Exactly.
But with a prosthetic arm, you can't necessarily feel where it's going.
Exactly. So what we are now doing, or what is our idea and what we think is innovative behind it, is that we have developed in the electrical stimulation domain a technology that we call the transcutaneous array technology. So we have multiple locations, multiple paths on a substrate that we can very individually address.
So that's what this film is. It's a really thin film that we see, and there's lots of dots on it. Are those each one a channel?
Exactly. Each one is a stimulation channel.
Each one of the circles or each one of the points?
Each one of these circles here.
Okay. There's 16 of them? Or?
This now here are 16 channels.
Okay. They're maybe the size of a pea?
Yeah, it's 1 centimeter, more or less. So this comes not by chance. I mean, the basic research behind it is observations. What can you discriminate in a 2-point discrimination around the arm? And here we have around 1 centimeter that we can discriminate from when we do something called electrotactile stimulation. So that you can say, okay, I feel a difference in location. When I move this 1 millimeter, you say I feel it at the same location. And when you can really distinguish for sure without needing a thought is about this 1 centimeter. So this gives us the resolution that we have at disposal. So now we can play with these channels to translate what the prosthesis is doing. So for example, what we have done is we stimulate on 2 points, and we can have these 2 points on that line of the paths being very close or being far apart. And we define this as being the aperture of your hand. So when you are close together with the 2 pads, then you know, okay, prosthesis is closed. When you have it far away, it is open. And then we can combine this because we can have these two pads at one position, but we can translate along the circumvention of your arm. We can translate these 2 points, and with this we give the indication about the rotation of the hand. So we have it in what is called pronation, when you see your handball looking to the ceiling, or supination when it is, I always remember these terms as an engineer are complicated. So they told me, supination is when your hand can hold a soup. So
That's actually very intuitive. Like, that seems like it'd be very quick to be able to learn.
yes. So studies have shown that we have done with the device that after 20 minutes you have fully learned how this works, and you can blindly repeat, and the next day you still remember.
And this is really cool. This seems almost like an add-on to a prosthetic. Like, this could theoretically add on to any prosthetics, like a universal thing.
That was our aim, and this is also where we are looking. So we are not developing something for one prosthetics device company, but we wanted to do something that several can use. However, it's still, from a usability perspective, it's for the user a second device to take care. So we are also at the moment investigating together with prosthesis manufacturers, how can we integrate this into the stump that it will become a single device for a specific company or a specific prosthesis, hand prosthesis. What is also interesting is we have more choices. We can not only work on the location, which we saw that is very stable, but we can also work on how you perceive the stimulation as something that is with like a tingling effect, or it is more a touch effect. And we can do this by changing the frequency. So we change the stimulation frequency. So what we are doing is, when you close your hand around an object with the prosthesis, at a certain point you grab the object, and then when you increase the activation, you start to deliver force on your object. This can be an egg, and then at a certain point this egg...
So the stimulation gets harder, so you know the force from that.
Exactly. So we have a soft stimulation with a low frequency. When you touch it, once you start to exert more force on it, we increase the stimulation frequency. And with this, or again with the learning, the user then finds out, okay, a graduation. So we have found that we can do with high percentage of reliability up to 4 levels. We can go to 6 levels, then we are about 70% of accuracy to be sure it's this level. With 4 levels, it's already more than 80%, it's 85%. With 1 level, to have 2 levels to distinguish from, it's more than 99%.
So it looks like a really portable device that you can bring it on, you can wear it throughout the day.
It's very light.
How is it powered?
This is all battery powered, so it's a rechargeable.
I see a micro USB, I think, over here.
Yes, exactly.
On this side.
So there is here a charger slot where you can charge it. So this is still a prototype. This is not a product. A product needs to have some other tweaks here or there, but we have them. So then the idea there is not that you have a clumsy USB that, of course, for a prosthesis user is not really a nice thing to have, but you take this device and you put it into a station, and you can take it off from the station and attach it to your garment. So we have then pressure pads that connect directly to the device. So in terms of usability, the product then looks a little bit different. But it is chargeable, it can stimulate. This device also has the capability to record. It's not only stimulation, but it can also record electromyogram, because when you have these prostheses, the user also somehow needs to command. It's not only about the sensation.
So the user would be able to know how many hours per day they were holding soup.
This is the sensing part, that you could use it this way. No, normally prosthetic devices, upper extremity prosthetic devices are myo-controlled. So you identify a few muscles that the user can activate that do not lead into a function anymore, because there is no hand that would do that function, but you can measure and record, okay, now the user would like to open, now the user would like to rotate, now the user would like to close the hand. And we can grasp this with the recording electrodes at the same time. And then from that, we can detect what is the user intention.
And so it takes that myocontrol device that's already on the market. This takes it to a whole new level.
This takes it to a new level. It's not on the market at the moment.
Not yet, but it looks like you're looking to translate it.
But we are now on the way to translate this into that market. We do this not our own, because we need a lot of knowledge and skills. So as I said, we are collaborating in this work with Strahinja Dozen, who is now at Aalborg University. And he has developed a very nice algorithm how to do the detection. He was a member of the group that now has moved to Imperial College. So it's Dario Farina's group that has done a lot on myocontrol. So all the control side, the controls, intelligence, engineering, we are taking from there. So it's not the aim of Tecnalia to do all on its own, but to go out and see what is the best technology that has been developed and how can we make the integration and how can we make the transfer then to the industry. So the next thing is called Recodo that we show here. So we have shown in other rehab weeks all our FES stuff on lower extremities. So we have the same array technology for a drop foot system. Let me only mention this, that we also have a little bit the full spectrum of the FES side covered. So with a drop foot system, we don't have it here in Canada, but this is a specific problem we have a startup company, they operate in Europe, they don't operate in Canada, and for non-Canada operating companies at the moment, it's difficult to show at the fair a product that they are not able to sell in Canada, so they are basically not allowed. But as a research organization, I can
talk about it.
I can talk about it. So something that looks like the MaxSense, very similar in terms of electrode you strap around your leg.
So that's going back to our previous conversation of the sensing that you're using for upper extremity prosthetics. You have a similar one for lower?
Instead of having the sensing, we also have the stimulation around your below the knee. So there you can stimulate a number of nerves that can help you to lift up the foot. Now, to control the lifting up of the foot is really dependent on finding precisely the point where you stimulate. And all the drop foot system out on the market, they don't do it. They do it one time in the orthopedic shop. They get set up. So we have done some research on that, and we have seen that intra-subject, so within one user, we have about 3 centimeter changes where this position is from day to day. We have huge changes within the day. So we thought, what are we doing wrong? It's of course clear because there are so many factors. Circumvention, how much hydration do you have? This changes where are the nerves. So the nerves are not every day at the same place, because when you start swelling over the day, your leg is swelling. We are sitting now here for some time, so we get some swelling. So the device doesn't work the same way. So our idea was, let's combine this with a sensor that gives us exactly the right position of the foot. And then we have like a calibration method that we find out from 16 electrodes that are strapped around, which electrodes give us, or which combination of electrodes give us the best dorsiflexion, so lifting up of the foot. And at the same time, we can control what is called inversion, eversion, so that the foot goes out or inside. And as a fourth function, we can also stimulate the push-offs, the counter what you have when you go from your stance phase, where your foot is on the ground, to the swing phase. You propulse with activating another set of muscles. And all that we can do with the drop foot device due to this multi-channel.
So this is basically a smart drop foot device.
Exactly. This is a smart drop foot device that now has CE mark in Europe. And we hope that we can bring this to North America in 2 years' time. We are launching, not we, but the startup company. So I don't have stakes. I don't have shares. I'm the inventor of it, and we have transferred the IP and so on to that company. But I have done that research for these investors I explained to you in the beginning. So they are the owners, and they are taking care about the business models and so on. So what we have done as a second product that will come on the market is to do this for the upper extremity. So there we have 32 channels that then can do on the upper arm really much better resolution of functions. So we can do wrist activation for lifting up the hand. We can do at the same time finger flexion, so closing the hand. And with this we can do like a very natural grasping scheme, and we can actuate the thumb to go into opposition to have what we call a palmar grasp, so a grasp to take a cup of coffee. Or we can do a lateral grasp, so we close first the fingers and then the thumb, and with this we can do something what we call the key grasp, so how you hold a key to open, close. So we have all these functionality that we can do with garment that is always the same, and with an intelligence behind it that detects for each what we call movement primitives, what amount and placement of these, we call them virtual electrodes, are on that garment.
So these are really a great array of different types of devices that you've developed out of the Research Institute. So let's switch your hats onto IFESS.
Okay.
So here, and you're extremely involved in IFESS. You're president of IFESS. Tell us a little bit about what IFESS is and what it means for you guys to be here at Rehab.
So IFESS is an organization. It was founded now more than 20 years ago. So it's, I think, 23 years ago or 24.
Who's counting?
Has been founded as a society that brings together the research on electrical stimulation that is not used with the main purpose of neuromodulation, but used to do functions or to recover function or to augment function, remaining function. But IFESS as a society has changed the mission from this early stage to something that includes all kinds of electrical stimulation that have a relation to function. So a neuromodulation device also gets into this category. So I cannot give you the black and white definition.
We all live in gray. Yep.
Exactly.
And variations of that.
Exactly, in all the variations of gray. And what we have as special mission of IFESS is, on one hand, to give a platform to really diverse audience. So we were always interdisciplinary. So this was one of the first societies that really brought together clinicians, therapists, engineers, scientists, and also the industry, so that we can do this merger. So I see IFESS really as the small rehab community that has the same aims on a larger scale. So they do not limit in the technology, but they have a similar concept. And that's why IFESS is at the Rehab Week, because it's a concept that we already had for more than 20 years to bring all these different disciplines together, to talk to each other, to listen to each other, and to then move forward together in that area. So we cannot do any research not having all the stakeholders on board. And that's the platform that we wanted to provide to the community that develops, that innovates. But we also wanted to provide and are providing the educational side. So it's very important for IFESS also to act on the educational side. I mean, there is a lot of beliefs and non-beliefs on electrical stimulation and bioelectricity in general. And we have a lot of knowledge, and we need to transfer this knowledge. We need to transfer this knowledge to young researchers, and more specifically We need to transmit this to the therapists, to the clinicians, and to the end users. I mean, we need very simply to break the fear of electricity at first.
So we're not being hit by lightning.
No,
we're using electricity for our best, most beneficial use.
And it is a natural thing because the human functions to a big part with electricity inside. So what we try to do is to use the same technology, the same mechanistics that the human already has integrated. So compared to the robotic device that does it in a different way, a motor generates force very differently than a muscle does. FES does it with the same actuator. So we take the natural actuator, we add the signal that cannot be brought to this actuator in a natural way, and we try to bridge from the brain to the extremity using electrical stimulation.
So being here at Rehab Week, what excites you the most? What's one of those things that's really exciting?
I mean, a keynote like this morning, this was amazing. I mean, you see in the eyes of an end user, you see really the passion. You see the images and everything what the person underwent in his journey to really become mobile again, that everybody was not believing that he would achieve. And you see that, I mean, after years of presenting his journey, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, so that's what's motivating you is you're seeing these end users coming out talking about their experience with the technology.
Exactly, and I like to see much more of that. So because we researchers, when I count my past, are still living like in a silo, more or less, with little exposure to the real life outside. And I think conferences like this, they can really make a step, and it's extremely important for young researchers. It's important for the young generation. I mean, the young generation nowadays is so much hooked into the mobile phone, so I think they interact only through the mobile phone to each other, and I think when we can achieve in the Rehab Week that there is more behind that.
You've done your job.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, like bringing all these societies together and kind of forcing this interaction, people that maybe wouldn't interact. We've talked about this a lot, like a lot of the engineers that are designing for, paralyzed population, whatever, amputees, they never meet this population. And I would actually still love to see more of this population here, like actually like roaming the halls and everything like this. But it is a step towards at least meeting clinicians, meeting other people that do have this interaction. So I think this is great.
I mean, this experience of having the end user here is something that we can do with these examples in keynotes and so on. We can do this by inviting end users here, but there needs to be done much more. And I think the networking is really what is the more, because they need to get to know to each other, and then they need to develop a relationship, and because it's not a zoo here. So let's be frank. I mean, when we say, okay, for 3 days we invite the end users here, then I would rather think about that model of going to a zoo, and that's not what Rehab Week should be. So it should really then bring the people together that they can start to build up a relationship.
They become partners in the process. The end user becomes a partner in the process. Exactly. You're speaking to my own heart. But Thierry, thank you so much for taking time with us. So we're talking to Thierry Keller from Tecnalia. You can find Tecnalia by going to tecnalia.com. And you're also the president of IFESS, and we can go and find out more about IFESS at IFESS, IFESS.org.
Thank you.
Great interview. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show and were able to learn something new, bringing together different fields in novel ways. Until next time on the Neural Implant Podcast.